What is up? We're back. Episode 135, I think. Alex and Michael here as always. Special guest via Zoom in the house, Jacob Kornhauser. What's going on, dude?
Not too much, hanging in there in quarantine. How are you guys?
Good, man. Can't complain. How's your quarantine been so far?
It's been interesting here in LA. A lot more restrictive, I think, than a lot of other areas just because of the population. But
Right.
able to go out, you can dine outside. We haven't really done that yet, but it certainly is better than it was the first few months.
Yeah, it's getting a little antsy here as
Yep.
far as not being able to do shit.
Yeah, I saw LA, they tried doing like a capacity limit, and some places I think were getting in trouble because they weren't really monitoring it too well.
Yeah, I don't know how well they're monitoring it. You're still supposed to have like face coverings in public and stuff, but when we go for like a walk on the beach or something, there's still plenty of people that aren't. So It's kind of hard to police that, I guess. But hopefully next few months it gets better and not worse, I guess.
Yeah, true.
Very good. Well, Jacob here, you said you work for Fox Sports in LA.
Yes.
So what does that all entail as far as what your day-to-day job looks like? Are you just sports nonstop 24/7?
Yeah, so I work on the digital side. So we work, with on-air talent to do digital stuff, cut stuff that airs kind of for a digital audience, whether it be like hype tapes or stuff like that, and covering live events. And my team specifically, live events. So just, World Series, we obviously have most years. Super Bowl we had this past year. So just kind of a digital focus on that sort of stuff and video intensive.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds a hell of a lot more fun than my fucking job, sitting in an insurance office all damn day.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I can't complain.
I envy people like you, but don't you have to kind of work all sorts of different hours with that job?
Yeah, I'm used to it from working like local TV. That's, what I did in school. And then my first job out of school was local TV. So those hours are super weird. And obviously, sporting events are geared toward when most people aren't working and can watch or go to the games and stuff. But I think it's definitely, for the most part, worth that trade-off of, having those weird hours, but being able to do something that's fun like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you always wanted to do that?
Yeah.
You were going to do that?
Well, I wanted to be a sports writer, like growing up. And then I think toward the end of high school, I realized like sort of the like newspapers are dying sort of thing, I guess, or came to that like realization. So then I want to do more like video type stuff. So then when I went to Mizzou, that's what I studied. I did broadcast journalism. So it was more of like the video focus. And now coming off of local TV, it's more fun very sports specific stuff, because I was like a sports anchor reporter in local TV, but it's more of like a news angle when you're in local TV, whereas when you're somewhere like Fox Sports, it's more of kind of the entertainment angle of it, so it's a little more fun too.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, dude, I mean, because we went to high school together, for anyone listening, and
I played baseball with Jacob.
Yep. Growing up
on the Pirate.
Go way back.
It goes way back, dude. And going through high school, like if you would have asked one person or any person in the high school, like who's the one person who's gonna like get into that sports role, the broadcast, the whatever, they're gonna try to go that route, and everyone would have said fucking Jacob Kornhauser. I mean, I remember you were like writing articles back in high school and shit, like ahead of your time.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think about. And also, by the way, you said you went to Mizzou.
Right.
My girlfriend's brother, apparently, Ryan Pereno.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do know Ryan.
Yeah, so his sister is my girlfriend. We live together.
Small world.
I know, because you know what? I follow that Brews on the Balcony podcast.
Yeah, one of my really good buddies from college is one of the hosts on that.
Yeah, and so like we started following them when we started this podcast. And
wow, that's crazy.
Ryan told me about them. And then one day, like last year, he's like, yeah, my buddy from college is friends with them, Jacob Kornhauser. I was like, wait a second. That's not a very common last name. Like,
yeah, that's wild. That's crazy.
Small world type shit.
For real.
So anyways, speaking of you writing articles, you wrote a book, which, I mean, I don't know if you mind us telling everyone, you're 25 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And you wrote this book when, last year?
Yeah, well, so I wrote it the last sort of 2.5 to 1.5 years ago, and then it came out a few months ago.
Okay, so the Cup of Coffee Club is the name of your book. Where can people find that? Let everyone know.
Amazon, IndieBound is a good way if you want to help independent bookstores kind of during quarantine that might be hurting. BarnesandNoble.com. Really, if you just like Google the Cup of Coffee Club, it should come up with stuff. It'll obviously, Amazon will probably be right up there. But if you want alternate ways of ordering, you can find them that way too.
So explain to us, first of all, what the book is. I gotta be honest, I haven't read it. I'm not a book guy. Didn't even know you had a book until recently.
I'm actually about to order it right now. I've been buying it.
Oh, beautiful.
Book by Infringe.
Check it out.
Because
library.
Yeah, the only person on this podcast that's gonna read a book is Alex over here. So
just bought James Conner's book.
Oh, nice.
I got a tough time with books. I don't know if I could ever write a book.
So explain to us what your book, The Cup of Coffee Club, what is it about?
Sure. So kind of the saying, a cup of coffee, describes, baseball players or really, athletes in general who had a really short career. They were only up long enough to enjoy a cup of coffee. So we kind of came at it from that angle, that idea, but really took it to the extreme of guys who played only one game in the major leagues. Guys who were career minor leaguers through whatever weird circumstances, they end up coming to the majors and only getting into one game and then going back down and never being able to get back up. So it was kind of an examination of that. Opening chapter kind of sets that framework. And then the 11 chapters after that are just individual stories of those types of players who I spoke with. And so it was really each of their stories and kind of seeing where they were similar to each other and where they were different kind of on their journeys and this weird sort of unique path that they took. Because, a lot of guys either never make it to the majors or they're in the majors for a while, but these guys are kind of a weird little microcosm of, the ultimate what if of you get one game and then you never get back. So it was really cool kind of talking to these guys and being able to see where they overlapped in, certain aspects of their careers and then where each of them kind of stood out in different unique aspects of their careers too.
Dude, that's sweet. Because actually,
like, not a book guy, but I'm interested in like reading that content for sure.
That's funny because I always think about stuff like that, like because that probably happens in so many sports where like players get like one game and then that's the only game they've ever played in, or stuff like that.
Well, and it even gets more unique in baseball when you think about it too, because hockey's got that farm system as well, kind of similar to baseball, but it's not a parallel between basketball and football are a little bit different in that regard. So you really have this kind of path up to a professional league, the highest level of a professional league, that I think really only hockey and baseball have those parallels of being able to, see that path up and then back down. And there's actually, Mike, you'll like this one. Jeff Bannister is one of the guys in it. And so he debuted for the Pirates. He was a coach in their system for decades and was a bench coach for them for a while, was in their front office. And his story is really, really incredible. He had cancer when he was a kid and overcame a bunch of stuff to be able to make it to the majors.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible.
Explain to me what, like, at the age of 23, 24, you just decide, I'm going to write a book.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to write a baseball book because I was always writing like baseball articles and stuff, but I never had, a subject that was long enough really to actually have like an entertaining and insightful book. And so toward the end of college, it really was like the last few months of college. I was just talking with a buddy of mine. I think we were on like a producing shift at our TV station and we were just talking about baseball, random stuff. And then that came up and we kind of just did a double take and looked at each other and thought it was a cool idea. I didn't even like pitch it as a book. I just said, I wonder how many guys have only played one game. So then I started doing the research and everything, kind of obviously wanted to talk to guys who had only played in one game and that were still around to talk to me about it. So I only wanted to feature players who were alive, had some cool stories and stuff like that. So once I got down the rabbit hole and saw that there was enough information to write a book, but not so much that it wasn't like a unique feat of these guys, then I knew I had a chance. And then once I got a hold of enough of them, then I was kind of in business with it.
Yeah.
Quick question. Were you able to get a hold of all of them, or like what percentage of the
Yeah. So I had a list of like 25-ish that I like wanted to talk to, that I knew I wanted to get around half of that, just knowing some guys wouldn't want to do it, or, it'd be harder to get into contact with some of them. And that's basically what happened. I had like 3 or 4 downright say they didn't want to do it. Other than that, though, there were a few other guys that either were further down on the list than the guys I ended up getting, or a few guys that I just could not get in contact with at all. But the 11 that I ended up getting, it was, they ranged in difficulty of kind of being able to get a hold of them. But I was able to, sit down and speak to all of them. And for a lot of them multiple times, just kind of going over stuff to be able to tell their story. So it was quite the journey in terms of just getting interviews in general. When I talked to Jeff Bannister, he was the manager of the Rangers at the time. So that was the easiest one to set up, but we had to wait until like the All-Star break, like the only time during the season, when a manager is going to have an hour or two to talk.
Right.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be tough, but 11 for 25 could be way worse.
Yeah, exactly. That's a Hall of Fame career if you're hitting 11 for 25.
Yeah.
So I'm on, I guess this is your website, right? baseballcoffeeclub.com.
Correct.
Are these little articles on here, are these the people you interviewed for the book?
No, so that's kind of supplementary. Those are kind of shorter articles. It was sort of kind of a supplement to the book in the lead up, kind of just to get people acquainted with the idea and stuff like that, and just have kind of a central location where you could read sort of shorter articles about some other guys that some of them are still alive, and then some of them have passed, and I just kind of, did sort of biographical write-ups for them. I think I did that 3 times a week, probably for the 4 or 5 months leading up to the book launch. So there should be about maybe 40 or so, 50 or so little short articles on there.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't want to give away too much of the book. Obviously, we want people to order it and read it. But you said you interviewed a handful of people. Who?
Right.
You mentioned Jeff Bannister, but aside from him, who would you say was your favorite interview? And is there a cool story you could tell without giving away too much?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can like give you a few tidbits just from a few different guys, I guess.
Okay.
So Chuck Lindstrom, he was the oldest guy that I interviewed. He played in 1958. And so he's like 84 now. I think he's 82, 83 when we spoke. So he played for the White Sox in 1958 and just has kind of a very strange story just because of the time period. Like, some of the stuff that happened, like if it happened now, it'd be really bizarre, I guess is the best way of putting it. His dad is actually in the Hall of Fame. He played for the Giants, a couple other teams. So that's a cool connection. Barry Larkin's brother, Stephen Larkin, is in the book as well. They play together.
What a bummer to be his brother, probably.
I know. Well, and even more so than just his brother, he's the youngest of all the Larkins, and the whole Larkin family was super, super athletic. One of them played at Notre Dame football. One of them is like one of the all-time leading scorers in collegiate basketball history at Xavier. But Stephen was sort of the runt of the litter. He was the youngest, and so he and Barry were 8 years apart, so they never really got to play together in any sport, growing up. So really the only time they ever played with one another in the same sport was for the Reds in 1998 when they played in the same game, which is pretty crazy to think about, for that to be kind of the one time that they played together.
Yeah. That's crazy. I bet those parents were so happy on that day, dude.
Oh yeah. They had, and his parents too were super involved kind of in the lead up process. They had, he had his mom like call me and see, like keep checking up on like the book progress and stuff. So that was
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and I guess they liked the end results. So that's always good when you feel that you did their story justice. The people who experienced it can read it and feel that it reflects
right.
Really how it really felt and how it really went.
That's probably the end goal, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Above anything, obviously the guys in the book, if they're saying, they feel that you did the story justice, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
For you. That's sick.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so anyone else besides that?
I was wondering, so just based off the title, do you plan on maybe doing it with like a few other sports?
Yeah, I don't know about other sports. I've been asked a lot if I'm going to do kind of a sequel to this book, which I'm definitely open to because there's enough other guys that I either didn't get in contact with or maybe guys that said no this time around who, a few years down the line, maybe they're open to it. So I'm open to the idea of doing sort of a second edition, I guess, of this one. I think I would have to take some other unique angle in addition to them just being one game players for it to seem different enough, because I would want it to be a little different. So we'll see how that goes, but nothing kind of in the works right now.
Okay, so
Go ahead, Ty.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead, dude.
So it's safe to assume that baseball is your favorite sport?
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
Safe assumption.
Yeah, definitely the one that I like follow the most and I guess know the most about, just because I follow it so closely and have followed it, since I was little.
Right. And you even played it.
Yeah, played it. It was the sport I was best at too. I'm sure that contributed to it a little bit of just like, I played all the sports, but baseball is just the one I feel like I identified with the most, I guess.
Yeah, and that's great that you can continue it off the field. It's dope.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, that's probably nice being in LA with so many sports teams around you too.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not bad. The traffic sucks to get to anything, but once you're there, it's pretty cool.
So you're a Cubs fan.
I am.
Growing up, who was your favorite player? Who was that guy for you? Was it Sosa?
Derek Lee.
Derek Lee, okay.
Yeah, Derek Lee. It was like right as I was kind of getting to the age of, really, really being involved in rooting. Because I think really my like sports fanhood started around like 2000, 2001. I was like 6 or 7 in terms of like being able to remember like specific moments and stuff like that. So obviously Derek Lee came a few years later. I think he came in like 2004 because I think he came right after he was on the Marlins when the Cubs lost in the Bartman game. But he was the coolest guy, and I went to Cubs convention, I think when I was a freshman, and won some raffle to get his autograph. So I got to meet him. He was a super nice guy, shook everyone's hand, thanked everyone for coming out. So it was really cool of the kind of like meet your idol moment where he wasn't like a total douche. So that was cool.
That's great.
Yeah. That's great too. I forgot about Derek Lee. That was sick.
Yeah, he ended his career with the Pirates, did he not? Or at least at the very tail end of his career?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good dude. I feel like he gets overshadowed, and I don't know why. Him and Aramis Ramirez, too. Another former Pirate. Yeah. That 3-4 in the lineup was scary for, 5, 6, 7 years there.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we know as Pirates fans.
I mean, yeah, dude. I've been a Sox fan most of my life, but I grew up watching the Cubs up until I was like probably 8 or 9. But I picked the number 20 when I was young because that was Corey Patterson's number.
Oh, dude.
I loved Corey Patterson. That era of Cubs, dude, was good times.
He hit 3 home runs on opening day one time, and he was kind of like anointed. He was like a top 10 pick. He was like a top 5 pick, I think. And he's supposed to be really, really good, kind of a 5-tool player. I remember he tore his ACL kind of toward the beginning of his career, and he was just never the same after that. It's too bad.
He was fast. I'm pretty sure he played for East Cobb, the travel baseball team growing up.
Yeah, that team was always
they
really
were at
good.
Caba and won Caba every year.
They had those sick like orange pinstripe warm-ups and stuff too.
Nick Martin got to play against them when he was on the Hurricanes. That was
really?
They
That's
got
cool.
fucking smoked.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, they always had like major league scouts coming to like 15, 16U tournaments.
Well, dude, I'll tell you what. I coached with Nick a couple summers ago. It was a 16U team, maybe 15 or 16.
Okay.
And the one tournament we went to, the big one in Indianapolis, there were fucking every Big Ten school scout was at that fucking tournament. And our team was just dog shit. Like, didn't deserve to be there at all. And there were these fucking 15-year-old kids pumping 90 off the mound and shit. And I'm like, I've never even got to witness this good of baseball. And these kids are 15.
Right.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's wild.
I was gonna say, that's why we're all now talking about sports.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a better talker than player. That's for sure.
And that's hard.
Dude, I think I'd be lucky to be able to throw like 30 miles per hour.
I fucking threw a golf ball the other day, and I'm pretty sure I threw my arm out.
You probably tore a rotator cuff.
With the golf club, not throw them. It's your problem.
Dude, I sunk a putt from deep, and I got excited, and I got my ball and hucked it. Immediately regretted it. My arm just fucking. Oh.
Usually, I throw the ball after, or throw my club or something. You don't throw your equipment like celebration.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a big enough accomplishment when you don't lose your ball, yeah. Somewhere else.
Giving them away.
Yeah.
So Cubs fan, the Sosa McGuire documentary. I didn't watch it. Did you watch it? I guess
I did. I was very excited for it, and I was underwhelmed.
That's what I keep hearing.
By it. It was basically a Mark McGuire documentary. And it's not like I'm like a salty Cubs fan that was like mad that Sosa wasn't featured more. It was more of like, I really didn't learn all that much, which I feel like is hard to do when you're doing a like deep dive 2-hour documentary. It's hard to have that much content where you don't really like learn anything, I guess. The middle third of the film was pretty good. You got some like insider kind of like Jack Buck behind the scenes footage, kind of freaking out about different stuff, and that was really cool. But other than that, yeah, I was kind of underwhelmed by it. I was hoping for more.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, Barry Bonds.
I know.
Like, come on.
Well, and they just like didn't talk about steroids until the very end, and then even then, they still kind of like sidestepped around it. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, like I want to see like Last Dance type deal where it's docu-series of let's go into the steroids. Let's hear about it. I feel like there's so much shit that's underground or just not out or just hasn't been explained. Like
I feel like we don't talk much about baseball on this podcast just because typically we're notorious football guys, I guess, or Steelers guys, you could say. Mm-hmm. So I have so many questions for you because we don't talk to baseball people. I just have like all these questions that keep popping into my head. So stop me at any point. Tell me to shut the fuck up.
No worries.
Sosa, why is he exiled by the Cubs organization, dude? What the fuck's up with that? That's a question for any of you, I guess.
I still don't know.
In the documentary, I think they didn't even show him when he was on the White Sox.
Right. Yeah, because he started his career there. With the White Sox, well, I guess the Rangers and then the White Sox and then the Cubs.
Semantics.
But that's a tough question because it really makes no sense. That makes no sense. And the fact that he got less than 5% of a Hall of Fame voting and is like off the ballot now with 600 plus home runs also makes no sense because it's like Barry Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame. Sosa, if you're saying Barry Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame, which clearly like, if 60% of voters are saying that Barry Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame, I don't know how only 5% are saying that Sosa belongs in the Hall of Fame. It's just a weird disconnect.
I mean, just how could you not say that Sammy Sosa, or how could you say he's not a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, he's the only player in history to have more than 2 60-homer seasons.
I'm so glad you brought all this up because those were my next questions, by the way. As far as the steroid era being allowed in the Hall of Fame, do you think they should be? Obviously, you just said they do.
Right.
I hate the argument that the steroids taints the Hall of Fame ballot, I guess, because you still have to be able to make contact with the ball. Yep. You still have to be mechanically sound. Barry Bonds had the sweetest swing in all of fucking baseball with a 32-inch bat. Meanwhile, he's got a 28-inch hog between his fucking legs. Maybe not. Yeah. Steroids will shrivel you, I guess. But.
Steroids don't teach hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't teach bat speed. Yeah, it gives you muscles. It is. I don't like the fact that instead of hitting balls in the McCovey Cove, he would have hit them into the stands. They still like, come on.
Yep. And before he even allegedly started taking them, he was already a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
His career WAR was like around 100. I think it was over 100 when he, when the timeline starts of when he was taking them. So it just makes no sense. And I think the best argument I've heard for, like, the way that you would put them in is just, parents can tell their kids when they take them to Cooperstown what these guys did. Like, it's part of baseball history, and they have to live with kind of, cheating and what they did. But I don't think that's up to baseball to decide and legislate kind of like who, because we don't know for a fact everyone who did it. So obviously, you know, Barry Bonds almost surely did it. Sosa, McGuire, Palmeiro, all those guys. But I'm sure there's a lot of guys who we don't know did it. And, you know, that it was so prevalent in that era that it's just hard for me to listen to that argument anymore. And at the beginning, I mean, I was hurt by it, I guess, in a way that like made me not want those guys in the Hall of Fame. But after a while, it's just like, it's pretty pointless to ignore that big chunk of history that, you know, Bud Selig let happen. And they knew that it was happening at the time, and they just didn't put a lid on it. So it's pretty hypocritical to keep them out, I think.
I think you said it best.
Well, Michael, what was your argument about Barry Bonds when he was on the Pirates? He was 30 stolen bases.
He was the 30 guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that's all the proof you need.
Are you kidding me?
Right. He didn't need steroids to be great. He just happened to take steroids and also be great.
Yeah, but one part of that documentary, the Sosa McGuire, is, you know, Ken Griffey was a big part of that, or he was supposed to be the MVP that season, or he was the pick to beat Roger Maris's record, but he fell off towards the end of the season. Do you think Sosa McGuire kept going because they had steroids?
It's possible with just the kind of helping with injuries and stuff, but it's so hard to I don't know. I feel like people will just make up whatever narrative, you know, fits what they want to happen. And obviously Griffey, to play in that era and by all accounts not have taken steroids, is pretty incredible. But then we saw his body broke down on him, and maybe if he had taken steroids, he would have broken the record. So it's a little revisionist history, but it is interesting to look at kind of guys from the same era. And I feel like Griffey's the only mega star from that era that we are pretty sure didn't take steroids at all.
But even then, it's like you said, pretty sure, or
right, exactly. We can never know 100%.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro.
So, next question then, Pete Rose. What are your thoughts on him not being allowed into the Hall of Fame?
This is another one that I've
crazy.
My stance has evolved on over time. So I used to, and I've actually evolved the other way on this one. So I still think he should be in the Hall, and I've always thought that. But I also think I don't really care if he gets in while he's still alive, because I think he's going to get in eventually. It's just a matter of they're not going to put him in while he's alive, not give him that satisfaction. But my thing is because they've done that. They did it to Ron Santo with the Cubs too, which was, you know, BS. They waited until the year after he died, and then they put him in because apparently writers didn't like him, which I didn't realize until after all the fallout with that. But apparently he wasn't very well liked as a player. But I digress. Pete Rose, he kind of hasn't really made any effort to become a different person. And it's up to you if you decide that, you know, you think he has an obligation to. But if one of the conditions of potentially being eligible in the future was that he would kind of reform his ways, so to speak, then he certainly isn't he's saying the words he needs to say to want to try to get into the Hall, but he's not really doing what he needs to do. You know, he still hangs out in Vegas all the time, signing autographs, doing shows and stuff like that, and still certainly gambling. So it's been more of a case of yes, he should still be in. It's incredibly stupid that the all-time hits leader is not in the Hall of Fame for something he did as a manager. But I feel I just care less now, just because it's so clear that he's not going to change who he is. And so his satisfaction of getting in concerns me less than it used to.
Can you provide some detail on what exactly his story was? Because it's all I know is that he was betting on games, but I think he never bet on his team to lose.
Yeah, so it's weird. He was a player manager for the Reds, and then by this time he was just their manager. And so he theoretically was either betting on games not involving the Reds, and then it came out kind of recently that he was in fact betting on Reds games, but was betting on them to win. The
baller move, by the way, baller move.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I don't see any crime.
Right, and the weird. Well, it will also be a point I didn't even touch on. It will also be hypocritical, you know, if when baseball embraces gambling, you know, with it becoming legal in so many states. If they're keeping Pete Rose out for that, and then they're making all this money on the side, you know, from being cut into all these gambling deals, from all these different companies. It's going to be, it's going to be really weird. And that doesn't mean that's going to stop them because, hypocrisy has not stopped them before. But yeah, so he was betting on games. He got caught. The weird thing is that he claims that he had an agreement with Bart Giamatti, who was the commissioner at the time, that they could revisit it after 1 year. The suspension and being, banned from the Hall of Fame, etc. And Bart Giamatti died of a heart attack a week after he banned him from baseball. So Pete Rose had nothing in writing to confirm what he said that they had. So then it just kind of upheld as a lifetime ban. And every time there's been a new commissioner, it's kind of a thing of, are they going to let him in? And they also hide behind the Hall of Fame hides behind this character clause that they have. Basically, these upstanding citizens can get into the Hall of Fame, but even that's stupid because, you've got Ty Cobb, who by all accounts was like a huge asshole. And there are, I'm sure, much worse, quote unquote, people in the Hall of Fame. So to keep Pete Rose out on that standard is also kind of strange to me.
It's tough, man. I mean, I get what he did wasn't right, but he was still one of the best baseball players to ever play. And like you said about taking your kids to the fucking Baseball Hall of Fame, it was a part of history,
right? And
that should be recognized. I don't know.
Well, it's like, I don't know the rules, but I've got to imagine there's some MLB players or NBA, NFL, whatever, putting bets in on DraftKings and shit.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere. Is that not illegal?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
or is it
it is. Now, I don't know how much easier it is to find now. And, if they police it as strongly, I feel like
burner accounts.
Yeah. Or just, someone, some fall guy and they go through someone else and, make sure that they're not directly attached to it because it's much easier to do that now.
Yeah. But again, even and I'm not saying I think that's fucking fine. If you want to, I guess betting on your team is, I could see a problem there, whether it be winning or losing. But
as long as you're not throwing games.
Dude, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem with betting for you to win.
I don't.
It's easier to bet to lose than to win.
Like Shoeless Joe, his story was he allegedly threw games. That is punishable. You can't be fucking losing on purpose.
Yeah, and the guy from the longest yard.
Win on purpose. There's no way to control that.
Yep. Well, the thing is now too, there are so many fewer reasons why players would throw a game, throw a series like they would, back in the Black Sox scandal when they weren't making anything, and throwing these games would literally make their annual salary. Obviously the risk reward now isn't worth it. So it would literally just be guys, assuming small amounts for them, not small amounts what we would consider a small amount. But even so, I don't think we would reach the slippery slope point where teams are throwing the World Series for gambling money,
Yeah, definitely not.
You see NBA teams losing games on purpose for draft picks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's worth a lot less if you ask me. Oh man. So I mean the MLB right now, I don't even know, it's supposed to be today that they decided. Are we having a season? I know the latest proposal was 60 games.
Well, so they did not agree. So we have to go back to March. This has been a weird song and dance. In March, they basically agreed that they would do an 82-game season and players would make a prorated salary. So basically they would make 82 games worth of salary instead of 162. So roughly half.
Sounds fair.
Right. Yeah. And then the owners, so the players are yeah, that's fine. That makes sense. We're only playing half the games. We'll make half the money. But then the owners tried to walk it back even more, realizing they're not going to have fans in the stands. They're going to lose some money on it. So they started trying to get players to take more of a cut, 75% prorated, whatever. And the players stood firm on, no, we agreed on 100% prorated salary. So then they started haggling on the number of games. And eventually we got worked down to 60, which is the highest number that MLB proposed to the players. And then the players ended up just rejecting that. And so the reason they rejected that is because by the time we had gotten to the point we got to earlier in the week, it basically was to the point where owners said, we will do this 60-game season, 100% prorated salaries, but you have to drop your ability to file a grievance, saying that basically the owners didn't negotiate in good faith based on the agreement that they already had. And so the players didn't want to waive that right. And so yesterday, Rob Manfred imposed, which was allowed under the agreement they had in March, he imposed a 60-game season, basically meaning as long as the owners and players agree to kind of the safety parameters and when they'll report to training camp, or when they'll report to spring training rather, then they'll have a season and they'll be paid 100% prorated during, those 60 games. But the players union can now file a grievance against the owners saying that they didn't negotiate in good faith. I don't know what the next step is there for them, whether it's an arbitrator that steps in and rules one way or the other. And if they do rule that the owners didn't, negotiate in good faith, then maybe the players get some type of compensation for that. I don't know where that road leads, but basically they have agreed on the safety protocols in principle right now. They're going to have to continue updating them as we go. But players are supposed to start reporting to wherever they're doing kind of spring training 2.0 on July 1st. And then opening day is supposed to be on July 24th.
Damn.
So they're going to play 60 games in 66 days is the plan.
Holy shit, dude. What? What about? Oh,
yeah,
dude,
it's going to be weird.
You have a couple rainouts in there. That's a ruined fucking.
Yeah.
Oh
it's gonna be really weird. And if we see anything, well, they're not doing the split season schedule, but what they did in 1981 when they had a strike, they basically split the season into two parts because they had a strike break out in the middle of the season. So basically everything before the strike was first half of season, and then everything after the strike was the second half. And if you won your division in the first half or the second half, you made the playoffs. So what we saw was that basically the Reds that season, and this happened actually to a few teams, but the Reds and even the Cardinals, they both had the best overall records in their division for the combined season, but they didn't win their division either half of the season. So neither of them made the playoffs. And so the Reds finished with, because I think they played 100, 105 games, something like that. The Reds finished with the equivalent of what would be a 99 win season in a normal year, and they just didn't make the playoffs.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's so bogus.
It's pretty intense.
Oh my God. Well, and here's the thing. Even if so we're going to play a 60-game season.
Right.
I saw the argument on Twitter today, and it makes sense. Last year, the Pirates at the All-Star break were maybe 4 games out of first or some shit.
Yeah, we're going to have weird contenders, I think.
And then the second half, they just completely fell off. We're going to have a very mixed bag of playoff, like you said, contenders, and it's going to make for some interesting fucking baseball,
Dude,
if nothing
definitely.
else.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You're only playing probably 20 series the entire season. Every game is going to mean so much. So from that aspect, it's going to be fun to watch. It's probably going to be really sloppy baseball, I would think, at first. But it's unique. I don't want this ever to happen again, but hopefully we can look back on it in 5 years and appreciate kind of the urgency that a 60-game schedule creates. It'll be pretty cool.
And maybe 5 years from now, we're going to be reading your book about it.
yeah, maybe. We'll see how much crazy stuff happens during the season.
There's an idea.
Yeah, I wish there was going to be a minor league season.
I know. That really is kind of the lost story in all this. Minor leaguers are making peanuts, and the minor league staff and, everyone who kind of revolve, these small towns that revolve around minor league baseball are just, for 1 year, they're gone. They're already on the ropes because with Manfred wanting to cut a bunch of minor league teams, it doesn't bode well. So that'll be something interesting to follow in the next few years too, is, how the minor leagues are changed.
So what's going to happen if the season starts? The Pirates last year had probably 4,000 transactions of sending people up and down. Right. If there's no farm system, is there going to be an extended roster for the MLB teams?
Yeah.
A bench?
Yeah. So I think the plan right now is they're going to have basically a taxi crew. So they'll have a crew of guys who aren't officially on the active roster who will travel with the team. And I think they're going to have 50 guys at first. So double your normal roster. And I think as the season goes, they're going to kind of pare that down to 30 to 35 so that there's 5 to 10 extra players. Because if we see, an outbreak within a team, nobody really knows what's going to happen if that's the case. But the hope is that, you've got these guys traveling and you've got some reinforcements. But yeah, it's going to be weird because those guys aren't staying game sharp. They obviously can be practicing with the team and whatnot, but they're not getting game reps. So if we do see kind of a bigger outbreak, that could spell disaster potentially.
It'd be kind of sweet if like the AAA team just subs into like the MLB team. Just
well,
like,
Tigers and Orioles already have AAA teams in the majors, so we can we can get them to play against them.
Yeah. The Pirates are kind of comparable as well, but
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the pitching rotations then, because obviously the games mean more. Every game, like you said. I mean, 5 days rest between.
We need everybody to go 9.
I mean,
we'll see a throwback.
You're gonna have pitchers on fucking, I don't know, short rotation, I would think.
Well, yeah, I think you'll see a lot of guys go with 4.
Terrible.
4, yeah. That makes sense. But damn, sucks for that 5th starter.
Yeah, for real. He'll be a long reliever this year.
Yeah, welcome to the bullpen, buddy.
Yep.
Yo, speaking of that, did the Pirates have a closer? Because the Nightmare turned into a nightmare. He's gone.
Yeah. What a nightmare he was.
Yeah.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Not anyone that's like a shutdown closer.
Yeah, I guess
could be completely missing someone, but
like the last handful of years, they've always had an all-star like shut the door.
Right. I mean, I guess like just Trevor Williams, like
it's been so long since I've seen
Ella could slide in. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Re-signed.
He's probably the best bet.
Yeah. That guy's also a fucking hothead.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Wait, because was he the guy who was chirping Amir Garrett?
Yeah.
From the bench? God, that was a classic brawl.
Dude,
oh yeah.
Dude, and then he got into it with like the bench coach or something, and he got like suspended out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was wild.
Is that when
where the players
what's his dick with a picture of him looking like fucking 300?
Oh yeah.
Fucking
yeah, Yasiel Puig just standing with like a sea of other guys coming at him.
Yeah, after he was
Sparta shit.
After he was already traded that night.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey,
he like technically wasn't even part of their team anymore.
Yeah, technically he was part of a third team at that point.
Talk about going to bat for your teammates, no pun intended, dude. Like, holy shit. You just got traded and you're still fucking out there.
Yeah, he gets traded in mid-game and the coach is like, just leave him out there. He's not our responsibility anymore.
Speaking of trades, Jacob, if you can comment, what do you think of that whole Chris Archer Pirates giving up?
Yikes! Yeah, that was kind of a disaster. And I mean, the Cubs have a connection to trading away Chris Archer in a bad way because they traded away all of his good years basically for Matt Garza when they traded him to the Rays. And then he was really good for the Rays. And then the Pirates picked the exact wrong time to trade for him when he wasn't that good anymore. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, last year he finished pretty strong. But overall, of course, it was kind of a flub for that trade and giving up kind of controllable long-term hitting assets for a guy that, nowadays he's probably a 2-3 starter at best.
Yeah, honestly, like just not even looking at numbers, thinking back to last season, it was 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, and 7 runs. Like, he gave up a home run every fucking game. I honestly thought he was in the AL East, right? I thought he would bring that slider over and just dominate.
Just bring that slider here.
Well, a good thing is he kind of reminds me in sort of how he was dominant and then struggled for a while. But then, last year, Sonny Gray did the same sort of thing. He was very, very good at the beginning of his career, fell off for 2-3 seasons maybe. And then last year, he was like top 5 in NL Cy Young for the Reds. So I could see him potentially doing something like that. I mean, that would help salvage the trade. But I mean, even that, I still, with Meadows hitting as well as he has for the Rays, I don't know that there's a way to completely salvage it from the Pirates' perspective.
I'm just Tyler Glass now too. He won like pitcher of the week. Pitcher of the month.
Yep. And if he stays healthy, he's going to be, a frontline starter too.
Well, pitchers are notorious from doing well and coming to the Pirates and not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's Garrett Cole.
Dude, yeah, Garrett Cole.
I can't believe that he has taken off like he has, because he was obviously an ace with the Pirates. But I believe his last full season with the Pirates, he was like not that great. You know, he kind of started regressing a little bit. And I thought that was sort of just what he was going to be. I thought he was going to be, you know, a good to bad ace, so to speak. But then he goes to the Astros and just lights the world on fire. It's crazy.
Dude, well, the problem is the Pirates.
I heard he was being
maybe
like he was being taught or told to pitch to ground balls.
Really, I've never understood coaching that is that specific at the major league level. That happened with Jake Arrieta as well.
Yeah.
With the Orioles, they told him he couldn't do his, you know, like weird over the top kind of like slashing sidearm angle. And then the Cubs are like, I mean, do whatever you want. And then he wins a Cy Young. He's amazing. Gets a $100 million contract.
You want. Yeah.
It's insane.
I know, man. And sometimes all it takes is just a fucking change of scenery, man, for a guy
really
to
does.
pop off. And unfortunately, the change of scenery is always not on the Pirates. It's away from the Pirates.
Yeah.
Where those players happen to thrive. So I don't know. You make all the assumptions you want. I'm not going to say a damn thing about it. Oh man. Okay, so 60-game season. Your Cubbies, man. You think they're making it? I mean, I mean, if the Pirates are making it.
It's going to be a crapshoot. It's going to be really interesting because even with a full season, I think the NL Central was kind of going to be a crapshoot. Cardinals are decent. Didn't really get better. Didn't really get worse. Brewers got a little bit worse. Cubs got a little bit worse. Reds really improved. I could see them competing, especially in a 60-game season, because they got a pretty good rotation too. I mean, hell, the Pirates, you never know. With 60 games, like you never know. You put together a 35-25 stretch. Who knows if that's enough to win the division. I will tell you, I don't know about this year, but I do think your White Sox are headed for greener pastures because they have a heck of a farm system / kind of young core of talented hitters.
And well, that's why I'm bummed, dude. Is like this was the Sox. If there was ever a year to like really prove to people that you're on the up and up, it was this year for the Sox, man. Yeah. And they just kind of lost that opportunity a little bit. But I don't know, shorter season. They got a younger crew. Maybe can have better stamina down the stretch. Who fucking knows? But we will see. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me kind of like the 2015 Cubs, where it was like people knew that they should be starting to get good and like should theoretically compete, but I don't think anyone thought they were going to end up in the NLCS that year. And so this was a year of kind of like a measuring stick of seeing where the White Sox are. I do think, though, in the 2020s, the White Sox will win more playoff series than they've won in their franchise history to this point, which I think is only like 4 or 5. But
still, that's sick.
I kind of fuck with it.
Yeah, that's a good it's a good White Sox tidbit that 05 they won 3 playoff series, and other than that 1917 was the last time that they won a playoff series.
I just put down on my notes, bet the White Sox to win the AL.
Put all my money in my
courtesy of Jacob Kornhauser.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a 60-game season, you can probably get pretty good value on them too. I mean, you got the Twins in there. The Indians got worse, but they're not world beaters. Royals and Tigers suck. So
Tigers.
Tigers are garbage.
Quarantine and like before we all started working from home on Bovada, I think it was, they were plus like 800.
Yeah, I mean, that's great value. I wouldn't I obviously would not just outright pick them to win, but for the value of it, like that is great value.
It's worth it.
Done.
Giolito is 80% of what he was last year. Like they have a frontline starter, and hopefully they fill in some of the gaps too. Yeah,
somebody gives really you 10,000 to 1 odds on anything, you take it every time.
You never know.
You never know. Man. Okay. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you coming on. We'll let you get out of here. We've almost been going an hour here.
Yeah,
so, absolutely. This is a lot of fun. Anytime
thanks
you're talking baseball,
on, man.
Let me know.
Hey, let everyone know where to find you, social media wise.
Yeah, it's just at Korn Sports on Twitter. That's kind of where I'm most active. It is KORN Sports. And on Instagram, which I'm almost never actively posting on, I kind of just follow along with other people, I guess. It's just my first and last name. So just Jacob Kornhauser, all lowercase. Trying to think if there's anywhere else. I think Twitter, honestly, is where I post all my stuff. So that's probably the best bet.
The book could be found Amazon and Indie Books.
Yeah. Amazon, IndieBound is where you can do it for kind of independent bookstores. It sources through a bunch of kind of whatever's closest to you. They try to work with them. Whoever's got it. BarnesandNoble.com. Any kind of retailer like that is a good bet.
I'm gonna buy it tonight when I get it. I'm gonna mail it to you.
Beautiful.
You're gonna sign it for me, please, and then you're gonna send it back.
Yes, sir.
And I'll send you a label with it. Don't worry.
All right, will do.
Will do. Cheap like that. He'll send the label.
No, I'll do for everything.
You gotta send him a Pouncy shirt with it.
Oh yeah.
We'll send you a T-shirt. What size T-shirt are you?
We'll go medium.
Medium? I think I got that.
Schmedium. Yeah, I was gonna say we'll go schmedium.
Cool. All right, the Cup of Coffee Club, Jacob's book. Go get that. Read it today. Check him out on social media. Episode 135. Yinzer 135?
That's what you started with.
I think so. 135. Yinzertainment podcast. You can find us. Yinzertainment.com is your best bet. Social media at Yinz Daily, YINZ Daily. Check out our YouTube page. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We'll be back next week, next Tuesday. Thanks again, dude. We'll be in touch, and take care, dude.
Sounds good. You guys as well. Like I said, anytime you're talking baseball.
Oh, yeah.
You're the
guy.
Happy to chat.
You're the guy now, so.
Sounds good.
See you, dude.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Peace.
Okay. I know I just wrapped it up early, but we've been going about an hour, so. Yeah, that was good talking. I haven't talked baseball in a while, so that was nice.
It was also nice to talk to somebody that knew what was going on with the season.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I just skimmed through articles.
Yeah, I had no idea. I have not been paying attention, have not been following, but
no, yeah, it's like I saw him, or I follow him on Twitter, and he's got a lot of good content, and I literally remembered I just saw a picture of me or us in Little League, and he was on my Pirates team, and I was like, bingo, local kid, let's hit him up.
Wrote a fucking book.
That's
goddamn.
I said earlier, I have a hard time reading books.
Yeah.
He wrote one.
Yeah.
Dude, just get the Audible book.
I wanted to ask him if there's a audio book of it.
If not, you should do it.
Me? No, he definitely.
I would read that one. I'm not a book guy, but I would read it.
I'm planning on purchasing it tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to
support your local government and authors.
What?
Support your local authors. Jacob Kornhauser. Corn Sports, dude. I love that shit.
Yeah,
Corn Sports. All right, but we are wrapping this up now. Yeah, like I said, next week, next Tuesday, Yinzertainment.com. Alex, would you hit stop recording on that?
Yeah. Wait,
on that thing, dude?
Wait, are we gonna have a podcast next week? Michael's not gonna be here.
I will be able to up there.
Oh yeah? They got internet up there?
What's that?
All right, we're out you. Until next time.